Well, hello, everybody. It is TexAgs Rewind presented by Yeti. David Nuno here, Nick Savage behind the glass. Nick, today's show felt like it was like we're giving reasons for this, we're giving reasons for that. We got a reason that Alabama is going to be 11-1. A lot of optimism on the show from several insiders, right?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm kind of going to push back a little here, David. I think Tony Tsoukalas, who you will see in the rewind, I think he has a reason to think that Bama is going to go 11-1, and I know you feel like they might be a little bit more vulnerable this year, but I'm kind of with Tony here. I think, and you mentioned it in the show as well, when you win for that long, you kind of, expect big seasons, and I think that's fair. But again, I can see your side as well where there maybe even 3-4 losses.
Look, it's Alabama and it's Nick Saban. That doesn't happen, right? But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion they're the best team in the SEC West.
For sure.
Because until you know the quarterback situation, they got 5 stars everywhere, so they'll probably figure it out. They've won without elite quarterback play before, but it's a different era in college football, and there are other teams. That Texas game early on is going to be interesting. The A&M game at Kyle Field, obviously very interesting. So we'll see how that plays out, but a lot of optimism for Bama. But we gave reasons why A&M will improve. We compared it to Athlon's notes. Obie and I did that in the first segment. We talked to John Harris, and I said, hey, John, paint me a picture, Picasso, if you will, of what a Bobby Petrino Texas A&M offense will look like. He did that. And Ryan Brauninger. I'm fond of that name for him.
That was a good one.
It's good.
I like it.
Pretty good. All that and more here on the Rewind.
Okay.
So I want your 3 reasons why A&M will be the most improved team or one of the most improved teams.
Well, I think I just gave them, but number one, Bobby Petrino coming in to help the offense.
Ding, ding, ding. Okay.
That would be number one on my list. Number 2 is all those freshmen from that heralded number one recruiting class are now should be theoretically ready to play. They've gotten experience. They know what they're getting into.
Ding, 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 ding.
So is that on there too?
I wrote them differently, but yes.
And then number 3, I would just say maybe the law of averages on health are in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That was not mine, but that should be on there. This was my list, and I'll give you Athlon's.
Okay.
New offensive philosophy / game plan. Right?
Okay.
That's Bobby Petrino, basically, right?
All right.
Dynamic off-schedule quarterback. Okay? I'm a big Connor guy. I think having the quarterback could be a game changer for any. Like, look at Alabama. There's questions about Alabama because they don't know their quarterback situation. I think you got 2 very capable guys, and I think Connor gives you an added element. So I'm going to go Connor there.
That kind of ties into my thing about the freshman.
Absolutely. And then my third one is very similar to your freshman.
Okay.
Maturity.
Yeah.
This team's going to be much more mature. Those freshmen, and also I think some veterans that needed to learn how to take a step up as being a leader. There were guys in front of them. Kenyon Green was the guy on the offensive line. Layden Robinson last year takes the lead there. He's going to take up his game a notch because he recognized some faults in his game. Bryce Foster, healthy, going to help that entire offensive line. Goes back to your health thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Bryce Foster's a real big key. His health is a real big key. Quite frankly, I think he was replaced by somebody that, let's just say, is very average at this level of football and maybe even below average.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that Bobby Petrino over the years has been really good at doing is being able to, and it's funny, I've had this conversation with Bill O'Brien about both Bill O'Brien and Bill Belichick. Belichick could, after the first quarter, he could walk over to Bill and say, hey, this is a shootout kind of game. I think we're going to need to be able to throw the football, maybe use some up tempo, but this is kind of a bang, bang, shoot 'em up. This is going to be a shootout kind of game. Then there'd be times Belichick would walk over and go, hey, Billy, it's a grind it out kind of game. They're not going to get out of their base defense. Like, this is going to be kind of a grinded out game. We're going to have to win 9-6. And so I think that understanding of the type of game, just from an offensive perspective, I always feel like Bobby Petrino has got that, where he can exploit. He can look at a defense. You know, who was really good at this was Paul Johnson, who was at Georgia Tech. Now, he ran option, so it was a little different, but he had different options of options. He had different flavor of the option. And he knew and could see how a defense in the first 15 minutes of the game, the first quarter of the game, he could see how they were attacking the option. And so he was like, okay, well, if they're going to do this, if they're going to bring the, if they're going to interchange the safeties when we show motion, well, all right, well, then we're going to show motion and then option back the other way. And now they're out of position. So we're going to take advantage of that. Paul Johnson was really good about that. I think Bobby Petrino, not option, but I just think knowing how a defense is going to attack his offense and then say, okay, now we've shown you this. Now we're going to counterattack because we know this is how you're going to do it. It doesn't mean you don't know it going in, but you have an idea of what they're going to do. But every team throws in wrinkles or new things. And, hey, they've got to stop this because you did this last week.
How did the weekend go?
By all accounts, very good. It was another weekend where they had, well, not even a majority of the players. The entirety of the visitor list was from outside the state of Texas. And the weekend before, you had 18 visitors, with I believe 11 of those were from outside of the state of Texas. So in terms of us getting reports, we don't have the connections in the areas that some of these kids are coming from like we would in the state of Texas. But we've been able to kind of triangulate some information off of various people, and it seems like A&M has really put themselves in a nice spot for, I would say, probably 3 or 4 of the kids that were on campus this weekend. And I'm talking about Jalen Hornsby, who the wide receiver from New Jersey that I wrote in my column, the kind of the weekend wrap, that A&M potentially has put themselves on an unreachable pedestal in that one. And his final 2 were A&M and Penn State. So for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions to undo what A&M did, it's going to take a Herculean effort and something out of the blue that we really don't see. And he's got a decision coming up, or expected decision coming up. They also had Caleb Odom, which is he's a tight end, but they even discussed like flexing him out and playing him as like a tight end wide receiver because of his versatility. They did a great job with him. I think it's going to be A&M or Alabama right now. I would pick those 2 out for his 2 leaders. He really enjoyed getting to know James Coley, or getting to sit down with James Coley, and then understanding more about the tight end's role in A&M's offense. And, that's not a position that A&M has to take a player at, but I think they would take the right one, even the right 2, if they got it, if they got the correct guys, the guys they really wanted. So, and I would say Caleb Odom is one of those targets. And, that's the position where A&M stockpile talent, but it's also still attractive for these high school guys because of how they use the position in Jimbo's offense and in Bobby Petrino's offense as well. So, on the weekend, I would say, unless I'm missing somebody, I would say I came out of the weekend feeling the best about those 2.
So do you think talks of being vulnerable are a little bit too premature?
I mean, yeah, well, to a certain extent, right? Alabama is more vulnerable than it's been in certain years. But I mean, look at every team. Look at A&M, LSU, Ole Miss. I mean, they all are very vulnerable at certain spots as well. And I think, I'd put Alabama up against any of those teams. I mean, Georgia is going to have a cakewalk schedule, and they've got a really good team. And it's just hard to see where are they going to lose. But outside of Georgia, I'd probably put Alabama up against anyone. I think there's a lot of teams that don't really have certainties. And I think when you look at Alabama, you compare it to some of these teams that Alabama's had, where it just seemed unbeatable. And of course, yeah, they don't have a quarterback right now. So yeah, I mean, you could say 8-4, 7-5. I mean, if the quarterback just totally doesn't pan out, then yeah, we're talking a terrible year. It's just, do you really think that Nick Saban's going to allow that to happen? Do you really think that Alabama's quarterbacks are that bad? I mean, if you do, then yeah, 8-4, I think is probably the floor of what this team could do. And if they don't figure out quarterback, I think that's a high possibility. But I just feel like I'd be shocked if Alabama lost more than 2 games in the regular season. And really, I don't see them losing 2. I think they'll probably go 11-1. And we're talking about, playing for the playoff in the SEC championship game.
All right, let's play out both scenarios. They go 7-5, 8-4, or they go 11-1. Does Nick Saban coach next year?
I mean, certainly if they go 11-1. I don't think either way he leaves, but I do think that 7-5 would be alarming. And I think that you would start looking at how Alabama is adapting to the NIL landscape.
Nick, are those guys being as quiet? I walked by a moment ago. They were being really quiet in the back.
Yeah, I think you put the fear of David Nuno, now that you know karate and jiu-jitsu and all that good stuff. Speaking of jiu-jitsu, this kid right here next to me, I've been working here almost a year now, and just casually drops a Oh yeah, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so like you said, he probably could kick everyone's butt in the office.
There isn't one person in this office that could take him.
No matter the weight class?
No matter the way. No, I am that much of a believer in jiu-jitsu. Now, if somebody else has some martial arts skills that I don't know about, different. But, like, I don't care how big Brauninger is or Billy or Mike Curls or Olin. Yeah, I think Cade will take all of them.
I agree.
So Cade should tell people what to do.
Come on, Cade. What do? You got to speak into the mic.
Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends.
And don't mess with Cade. It's
Yeah.
TexAgs Radio.
Yeah, it's Cade.
Or
Cade
Rewind.
Ingersoll Rewind debut.